This video is taken from my course on how to create a hybrid casual mobile game. More info in the description. Alright guys, welcome back. In this lesson we are going to learn how we can actually change the icon of our UI crop container. So if you remember well, if you've just watched the previous lesson, you should remember actually. So on our UI crop container in the last lesson, we've changed the amount of crops that we have. But we now need to change that little icon, okay? Yeah, much better in the scene view. This one. So let's do that. Okay, so let's jump right in our inventory display script. And just after creating our UI container prefab, let's actually see how we can grab the crop icon. So let's call it crop icon, okay, equals blah, blah, blah. Nice. So after grabbing our crop icon, we are going to call the configure method instead of the update display one, pass in the icon like so and the amount. Okay, where can we grab our icon from? Let's first comment these two lines. I just want to explain how we are going to do that. The first thing we are going to do is grab our data, corn data. Yeah, let's say corn data. This is a scriptable object, okay? So it does contain all of the data for the corn, for our corn crop. So what we can do is add another field for the icon, okay? So we will be able to specify this icon for the corn and the tomato icon for the tomato. Then you have multiple choices. So you can either link all of your scriptable objects, so data objects right here, to your inventory manager, or to the inventory display, or you can grab them from the assets folder, okay, so just by script without attaching them, or the method that we are going to use, create a separate data manager that will actually be responsible for grabbing these, okay? So it will be responsible for giving you any icon that you want, or giving you any selling price that you want, or anything else, okay? So yeah, let's do that. Let's right click on our manager's game object, create an empty game object. Let's call it data manager. Perfect. Let's open the scripts folder. Maybe we should create a managers folder. Yeah, let's do that. Folder, managers, like so. Right click. Oh, come on. Right click, create a new C# script, and let's call it data manager. All right, let's open it. Cool. And the first thing I want to do is add a reference to all of our crop datas. So let's create a header for that. Let's call it data, serialized field, private, crop data. It's going to be an array of crop data, of course, or a list. You can choose, but it's going to be static. Like after you've done the game, it's not going to change, except if you make an update, of course, but you can still use an array. So let's call it crop datas. Perfect. Now let's go back to Unity, select our data manager, attach the data manager script, perfect. And let's add our first corn data along with the tomato data, perfect. So now the data manager is aware of your crop data. Then let's remove these two methods for now. And let's create a new public method that will return a sprite, okay? And we are going to call it get crop icon, okay, so it does return an icon, or get crop sprite if you prefer, from crop type, okay? So you will pass in a crop type, and this will return a sprite, okay? As simple as it gets. So how can we manage to do that? We are simply going to loop through all of the crop data and check which one has the specific crop type, so this one. As simple as it gets. So let's remove this line, okay? Let's create a for loop. So let's loop through all of our crop data. So crop data.length and check. So if crop data at index I dot crop type equals this specific crop type, then we want to return crop data. So let's return crop data at index I dot icon. Let's call it icon. So we don't have a reference to that icon, but this is the one I've told you previously. The one that we are going to attach to each crop data, okay? So I think we should do that first. Yeah, let's do that. So let's open the crop data class. Okay, let's add a public sprite icon. Okay, let's now go back to our data manager. Now we don't have that error anymore. Perfect. We can remove this. And if we don't find any crop data of that type, that's an error. So we are simply going to debug.log error, no crop data found of that type, and return null. Perfect. So that way we know that we've got an error right here. Cool. So let's open our inventory display now. Okay, we can uncomment this. So now it would be really nice to grab our data manager from here and grab the icon. So what you can do is add a reference to the data manager like so. So private data manager. But this creates entanglement and spaghetti code. So I don't advise you to do that. Instead, I'm going to show you how to use the singleton pattern, okay? So let's go back to our data manager. Perfect. And let's create a static instance of that class. So public static data manager instance. Okay. So the static instance can now be used on other scripts. We will be able to call the data manager dot instance dot something, blah, blah, blah. So ideally, we will call the get crop sprite from crop type. Okay, and pass in the crop type. So let's actually do that. Let's grab this line, drop it here. Okay. So we know the crop type of the item we are checking. It does have that property. So items index I dot crop type. Perfect. And finally, we can configure our container. But our instance is null at the moment. Let's give it a try so that I can show you. Yeah. So let's hit play. And we've got an error. Why? If we check the error, it does say null reference exception. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. It's on line 30. So let's double click the error. Okay, line 30. And you can now notice that the instance is null for the moment. So let's initialize it. Let's create the awake method. So the awake method is a built-in method that gets triggered even before the start method. Okay, so that's really important because we do configure our inventory at start. Okay, so it would be so bad to configure the inventory, then configure the data manager. No, that doesn't work like that. You should first configure all of your single instances and then do whatever you want with them, call them and so on. So what you want to write is if the instance equals null, so if there is no other instance of the data manager, so it does mean that we'll only have one instance of the data manager in our game. Okay, so if instance equals null, instance equals this. Otherwise, if there already is another data manager in our game, then we want to destroy this instance. Okay, we only want to keep one. So destroy game object. Perfect. You've learned how to create singletons. Quite simple, isn't it? All right, let's go back to Unity. And now we can actually test this out. But before, let's specify our icons. So the corn data, let's open our corn data icon. Let's select the corn icon. And for the tomato, I'm going to select the tomato icon. Perfect. So now let's clear the console, hit play. And we are good to go. So we have one inventory display. By the way, we forgot to remove this one. Let's remove it. Hit play. And now we are good to go. We actually know how many crops we've got. The UI containers are displaying properly. Awesome. Cool. The only issue now is that they don't actually update whenever we harvest the tiles, okay? They do not update. So we are going to fix that in the next lesson. See you there.